Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. And today we're talking about the hot topic of the day, which is AI. But I think a really cool approach, a practical approach, is how do you get an ROI from your AI instead of just playing with these new fun tools that change seemingly every single day or hour, depending on where you are on the internet. How do you actually make it work for you and your company? I'm excited to dive in with our very special guest, Hunter Jensen. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Brandon.
So this is a unique approach. I've heard a ton of people, I'm sure you have too, talking about AI and using AI in your business. But you come at it from a different angle, a very practical angle that I think more people need to hear. And that is actually getting an ROI from your AI. Tell me, where does this come from? Because I know you have a long history in AI. Is it the frustration of what's going on in the marketplace or just really needing to see results from things? Where does this background come from?
Yeah, this has actually been a topic on my mind for many, many years, well before ChatGPT and generative AI, which is, treating this technology and these tools as some sort of like magic, and treating them like toys and tinkering and building proof of concepts. But never actually deploying them into production. It's like, isn't this neat that we can do this? But, that's wasteful. And that time has passed. There was a time for that where all the models were still really immature and we couldn't really trust to get things deployed in production, but that's over. Now is the time to find a return on your investment in AI. And so, I treat this like just another technology, another tool that we have, a very powerful tool that we have to help drive our business forward, right? And how, where's the revenue generation? Where is the cost reduction? Where's the increase in productivity and efficiency of your employees? How do we measure that? How do we measure it and improve it on an ongoing basis? Like, I take a very practical approach to, this new exciting technology and how to deploy it, in businesses in a way that moves the bottom line, right? At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do with these businesses.
Yeah, it's interesting as you say that. I've bought a number of different software programs over my career. I've helped build them and sell them. And every single time you're either in the market to buy one or you're selling one, you have to prove its ROI. Like that's part of the sales pitch. If you have to understand, what are you either going to be able to make from this product? What time are you going to save? What cost are you going to save? And it seems like in the AI realm, at least, they're just tools that are put out there. Like nobody's really justifying the cost, which is the approach that you're taking. So when you're either building a solution for a company or researching new tools, what do you want to see from this AI in terms of the actual use cases that you're either building it for or researching it for?
Yeah, so a lot of my focus right now is around employee productivity and efficiency, which is an area where I think is most kind of ripe for small, medium-sized businesses to be able to start leveraging some of this technology in a way that's really going to move the needle. And the way that I've been thinking about it is increase productivity and growth without hiring more people, right? Hiring is very hard. Mistakes are extremely costly, but we got to drive growth, right? It's grow is always the mindset. And so we now have this new technology that can power growth without just meaning more bodies and seats, right? And it's a tool that can make our existing team far more efficient. And so, I get really practical around the details here. You think about, I'll give you an example, commercial real estate appraisal, random vertical, right? What do? They create appraisal documents. That they're either inspecting or researching or creating these documents. How many documents can you create in a week? How many hours do they take? Okay, now introduce an assistant, an AI assistant that knows all this stuff about your business, about the property. How many hours does it take you now? Okay, that's a 30 to 40% reduction in time, meaning you can now do 1 or 2 more of these a week. How much do you get paid for these? Like literally do the math, right? And say, oh, okay, well, I can have the same level of staffing, but I can do 2 more appraisals per week. That means that I'm going to bring in $5,000 more every week. And that, how does that impact my annual forecast for revenue and profit? Like that's a really simple example, but like we seem to be missing that somehow in a lot of places. And the other thing that businesses are struggling with right now is, a lot of most businesses have confidential information. That's part of their workflow. They can't just go and upload client documents into ChatGPT and trust that they're not going to get leaked into the training data set, right? And so, I can't tell you how many organizations I've talked to the leaders and they say, oh, well, our employees are not allowed to use large language models because of that concern. And guess what? They are anyway, right? But that's the policy because they understand the risks here of all this confidential information. And so one of the other things that we're doing to kind of tackle both of these problems, both the like confidential data, but also leveraging LLMs for productivity is building in-house, proprietary systems that are hosted on client infrastructure where you can combine, an assistant that has all the knowledge from your organization that you can't share outside and agents that are connected to your third-party systems that can perform tasks like update your CRM or what have you, but it's all safe and secure in your environment, right? And when you do it like that, you can get all of these efficiency and productivity gains without having to worry about, you're leaking confidential data. And you have to give your team these tools because if you don't, they're going to use the third-party ones. And it's very problematic for your business, obviously, if you're consistently leaking confidential information, right? There's all sorts of problems with that. And so we're looking at it kind of from both lenses. 1, protecting our data, but 2, giving your employees the tools that they need to boost their productivity and boost their efficiency. I'll give you another very simple, practical example. You've got a 50-person company. One of the employees, Sally, she wants to know if Invisalign is covered by their dental plan. So what do now? You send an email to HR, hey, could you figure this out for me? And then HR goes and looks up their record and goes and finds their benefit package and then digs in to figure out whether this particular thing is supported. We're talking about hours of work here to answer a simple question. We don't have to do that anymore. If we have an assistant that's trained on all this HR information, our standard operating procedures, our employee handbook, all of the benefits information. Now Sally can go to this tool that you as a business owner provided and just say, hey, am I covered if I want to get Invisalign? Right? And that's 24/7. She doesn't have to wait for HR to get back. She'll find out right away and it will be right in almost all cases. And there are ways to create guardrails to make sure of those things. So that's really where like our primary focus has been, let's call it in the last 9 to 12 months, is lifting up your existing workforce. We're not looking to replace jobs here. We're just looking to make people better at their jobs and faster at their jobs.
Yeah, I love that outlook. A question popped in my head. I don't know if this is relevant or not, and I haven't personally heard this, but I'm curious to hear your side of it. If you go into a company and their normal output is, I think the example before, 10 outputs, widgets per week, whatever it is, you implement AI and now they're capable of producing 12 widgets per week or 15 or 20. Do you ever see that people, even though they're becoming more efficient because they're leveraging the tool, do they expect more compensation? Have we analyzed that end of things too with the implementation of AI?
Yeah, well, and I'll do you one better than that. Look at this at the company level as well. So I run Barefoot Solutions. It's a custom software development shop. For 20 years, I've been in the business of selling hours of development work. All of a sudden, a project that might take 1,000 hours maybe only takes 200 hours or 300 hours. Does that mean that the cost is reduced by that much? Does that all get passed on to the customer? Because that's very problematic for my business model. Think about anybody that's billing by the hour, attorneys or accountants, all sorts of folks are, seeing an existential threat to their business model. Now, what I'm not seeing are employees echoing a similar sentiment. I think from an employee point of view, I clock in at 9, I clock out at 5, and just because you gave me some great tools to do more with those hours, I'm still just working my job, and I'm being paid for my time here, not necessarily on output. Sales is different. When folks are being compensated based on their success, that has to change. I think, sales in particular, the comp models, if all of a sudden your salesperson is closing, 30, 40, 50% more deals every quarter, I think there are scenarios where your comp package kind of spirals out of control and they're making more than the CEO, because when the package was designed, that this didn't seem like a feasible world for us to live in. But in general, I do not find that employees expect more compensation with increased productivity, because I think they think about it as their time, which is not changing, not necessarily their output.
I don't know. If I was a salesperson and I was making more than the CEO, and then all of a sudden that got changed, I might be pretty upset. I actually, the CEO should go be a salesperson at that point. That's
right. Right. Yeah, no, but that happens. That can happen easily, right? All of a sudden, a leading salesperson is making a lot more than the CEO because of the way the package was designed. I've seen that in practice. And so it's, something to be thoughtful about, but let's be real. Sales has not gotten all that much easier. In fact, it's gotten harder, because there's so much noise. It's so noisy now. Sending a cold email is not what it was 5 years ago, not even in the realm, not even in the ballpark. COVID hit and all the in-person events and marketing budgets, they all went digital. Everybody went to email and LinkedIn, because nobody's even answering corporate phones anymore. The offices are empty, right? And so those were the only channels that were working, and the pendulum hasn't swung back nearly as far as it did when everybody went home. And so, sales is by no means like a breeze now that we have all these powerful tools. It kind of is an equalizer, trying to get us back to where we were kind of pre-COVID, pre-generative AI. Because the tactics that worked then don't work anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree. I want to go back to something you said before we wrap this episode up. In your practical approach to implementing AI with companies, I feel like a lot of people stumble upon AI. I know I've been guilty of this, where you just on social media, an ad comes up for seemingly a really cool tool, and you're like, oh yeah, I could use that. I could implement that in my business. And it sounds like you want to take the opposite approach of really identifying the places in your business where you could leverage AI to streamline workflow, become more efficient, more profitable, use less people time. When you're looking at a business as a business owner, not as an external party, but as the business owner, where should you look at implementing AI first, and how should you analyze that implementation, the path to that implementation? Do you have some tips around that?
Yeah, and that's a really important point that you just made. Right now, I don't think most business owners are thinking about this in the right way. I think that they look at specific use cases and specific tools and say, what tool should I implement for what particular use case? Because that's how we've always thought about stuff like this. But I think we need to be thinking about it differently. I think we need a platform that will enable all sorts of use cases, some of which we haven't even imagined yet. And we need to do it in a way where we have control over this, because businesses are like snowflakes. They all have their different procedures and processes and custom this and a 10-year-old database over here. And the off-the-shelf stuff is just not working for real businesses right now. And so I really think about it as you need a foundational platform, yes, with a use case to start with, but where you can build out a lot of different use cases. And so I do really like, again, going back to just doing the math. It's like, okay, 3 or 4 use cases. What's the ROI on each of these? Let's estimate it, because they might be magnitudes different if you just put it in a spreadsheet and say, okay, well, we think the value of this is that, and this is that, and then the cost of this, and we're going to break even on this thing in 3 months, but this one will take 2 years to break even. So that now we have a no-brainer. Like, that's how I like to approach it, is by doing the math. Someone like me, I'll come in, I'll meet with a business owner. I'll tell me all about your business. Okay, how many employees do you have? What departments do you have? What are their main functions? This and that. And I'll look for opportunities where, okay, that's an inefficiency. Or you have a whole team of people over here, all they do is push paper. We don't need paper pushers anymore, right? The LLMs are smart enough to do 90% of that job, if not more. And let's identify top 3 or 4 and do an ROI calculation on them to figure out where we should start. But I do look at it as at a foundational level. You need a platform where you can build and continually improve and grow your capabilities internally, not pick out a bunch of tools off the shelf for a bunch of one-off use cases. That's what we're doing right now. And I just don't think it's the right model.
Yeah, I agree. And I like the way you approach that too. It's backwards to how most people approach things. Not that it's a backwards way, it's just different. And I think we need to start changing the way we look at everything in our businesses. Times have changed. And I think we've done a good job of highlighting that in this episode. Question just popped in my head. So if I said that was the last question, I lied, but now this will be the last question, I promise. We have HR leaders. We have people managing our people. We're moving into a world where AI may be managing people to some degree. Do we need to start having people, or at least thinking and planning to have people manage our AI and our systems? Because I can see a world where if any of this goes down for a little bit or goes wrong, we're going to have catastrophe on our hands very quickly. So what does an AI manager type role look like?
Yeah, that's so funny because, like, I don't know if you remember, maybe a year and a half ago, I know I was guilty. I said the same thing. There was a lot of talk about being prompt engineers, being really good at prompting. But it's way beyond that now. Right. That's a skill that you should have. You should be able to write good prompts because it's useful in almost any sort of office job function right now. But it's really about, we have to manage and oversee complex technology, right? And it can't all be engineers that are doing this. And I think one of the areas where we're not doing a great job right now is training. Employees need to be trained on how to do this stuff, how to manage these things, what the risks are to look out for when implementing these things. It can't all be an IT function because that would result in IT being the most important, powerful department of any company. And that's not really what companies want, right? And so training our employees across departments on how to use and manage this technology. I mean, yeah, when I say increase productivity without hiring, but you are bringing on a thing to do the job, and somebody needs to manage that thing, just like it was a person, right? Not just like it was a person, but similar to how we have to manage people. We have to monitor output. We have to continually improve models. We have to install guardrails to prevent disasters, right? Like all of these things need to be looked at and focused on at an organizational level. And we don't have this, like the staff with the knowledge to do it right now. And that's, to me, where training really comes in, is we got to elevate everybody to understand how this new technology works, so that they can manage it even on a day-to-day level. Just because I'm using this tool, I need to be able to manage it, improve it, make it better, and make it work for me.
Could you imagine a world where IT was the most powerful department? That seems scary. That's scarier than AI taking jobs.
There are sci-fi like TV shows where the head of IT is like a villain. And that's like not that far off from like not today, but like where this could end up if they, if that's who was in charge of the AI, right?
Yeah, crazy. It's a story for the future, maybe the near future, but future nonetheless. Hunter, this was a lot of fun. I'm glad we had this conversation. It's a refreshing look at AI. I'm glad we got past the tactics and we're actually talking nuts and bolts and how to get an ROI. If someone listening wants to reach out, learn more, or just maybe question the way they're using AI for their business, where can they go to learn more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about all this stuff. I encourage you to reach out. You don't have to be like a potential client. I'm interested in meeting business owners and leaders and talking about AI with them. My website's barefootsolutions.com. You can get me directly at hunter@barefootsolutions.com. I'm also quite active on LinkedIn, so you feel free to connect with me there. I'd love to hear from you, see how you're using AI in your business, or help guide you in how you might leverage some of this new tech.
It's awesome. We all got to be using AI, or at least you should be. So here's your resource. It's all down below in the show notes, wherever you're watching and listening. We'll see you on tomorrow's episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Harmonious at Lunch podcast. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and we want to invite you to join us in the Small Business Success Facebook group, our private group where guests and listeners come together to grow your business. We want impact-driven entrepreneurs who are ready to go to the next level in this group so we can all share ideas, collaborate, and grow our businesses together. Go to whatif.com/group, and we want to invite you to join today. See you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.